What's going on, Spurs fans? Good afternoon and welcome to Stateside Footy. And of course, it's Saturday, and that means it's time for another Hotspur live stream as our beloved Tottenham Hotspur play host to Newcastle United at the Lane. And by God, I would probably assume that the entire section of North London is absolutely buzzing right now. And of course, why not? Because Spurs were able to get Omar Mamouche across the line. And it looks like today, Roberto De Zerbi has what looks like the makings of what his first choice 11 probably will look like. Actually, let's be perfectly honest. It's your first choice 18. And as far as I'm concerned, this is going to look something reminiscent of what we will see 6 weeks from now. But that being said, there are a few little subtle tweaks to the lineup today. But before we start getting into lineups and what we can expect from both teams today, please do me a favor and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell if you guys are tuning in on TikTok Live. The link is in the description for you guys to head over to YouTube and show the channel some love. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our visitors today. And it is Newcastle United. And it looks like new head coach Matthias Yassili is lined up in a 4-2-3-1. And in goal today will be Lucas Hornacek, the Czech keeper. Me personally, I really don't know much. Don't know much about Hornacek. But that being said, last week against Liverpool, he actually had a few nice saves in there, and so from that standpoint, we'll see exactly how this one will play out. Off the right side of the back four will be Bosnian Amar Dedic. Off the left side will be Lewis Hall, and the center back pairing today will be Sven Botman. And it looks like Malik Tia, who's going to be wearing the captain's armband today for Newcastle. And one of the things about Newcastle is they have a lot of tall, strong center backs. And of course, when you look at their bench, when you see Fabian Schär, that is something that has always been a plus for them. Of course, it looks like they might be without Dan Burn as well too. But that being said, considering the way that Newcastle is now playing, a little bit of a counterattacking style does have the possibility to sit deep a little bit. But that being said, one of the strengths is going to be for Spurs at least is trying to go up against some of those center backs that they have. So let's see, the midfield pairing today for Newcastle is going to be Nico Gonzalez, and it looks like it's going to be Lewis Miley. And then when it comes to the attacking four, off the right side will be Anthony Elanga. Off the left side will be Harvey Barnes. In the middle should be Joe Willock. And then up top will be Yohan Wissa. And of course, last year Wissa didn't exactly have the greatest season in the world. But that being said, one of the things that Newcastle does, especially under their new head coach, is they're a little bit more of an attacking team. And so what you're going to see are quicker transitions, as they like to rely on some of that speed, trying to get in behind. And so from that standpoint, there's a good possibility that we are going to see this team press from times. You might even see a mid block as they're going to look to try to create turnovers and try to progress that ball a little quick. And that's something that, typically we haven't seen Newcastle play that style, especially, under their previous head coach, where they were more of a possession-based team. Don't get me wrong. Yes, Newcastle lost a considerable amount of talent over the course of the last two seasons. But that being said, I don't think they're going to be as bad as people think they are. I just don't. I don't see this team being in relegation contention. A lot of things are going to have to happen for them for that to happen. Listen, man. Whenever you lose good midfield, that was actually the strength of Newcastle was that midfield when you had Bruno Guimaraes and you had Sandro Tonali. Especially against us over the course of the last couple seasons, we generally got bullied in the midfield. That certainly isn't the case anymore, but just because they don't have it doesn't necessarily mean that this team is going to be a bad team, as we saw last week against Liverpool. Off the bench for Newcastle today will be Ewan Wawen. The backup keeper, there's going to be Fabian Schär, Leo Shahar, Algi Bamba, Jacob Ramsey, Bouzman Torre, Jacob Murphy, and Nick Valdemata. All right, turning our attention to the home field Spurs, and of course today it's going to be a little bit different. Obviously, no Sabinho, and I know that a lot of fans were a little bit worried about Sabinho because it is like a very Spurs thing that would happen. That as soon as somebody comes in, all of a sudden Dr. Tottenham rears its ugly head. From what I'm being told, it is muscle fatigue, so there's no structural damage when it comes to bones or ligaments or anything of that nature. It just looks like it's being classified as muscle fatigue. I don't think this is going to severely hamper Sabinho long term, and so this looks like it literally might be a 1 week problem. All right, in goal will be Big Tony Kinski, and rebounding from that Brentford loss, I thought he was absolutely solid against Charlton Athletic. And don't get me wrong, they ended up conceding a goal late. I don't necessarily think that was a Kinski problem, as it was Spurs had that match in the bag, and I think they just kind of, decided to turn off a little bit. The back line today, off the right will be Archie Gray, and it's a little surprising considering Pedro Porro's back, and of course Mikey Moore is still in the fold. But that being said, Archie Gray gets yet another start off the right side. He will be tasked with Harvey Barnes today, which is going to be a handful, but there seems to be a lot of faith in Archie Gray. Off the left side, it will be Robbo. And I actually like this move. And I know a lot of Spurs fans were probably saying, hey, listen, this is an opportunity to play a guy like Destiny Udogie, speed versus speed. But that being said, I can understand the reason why they went with Robbo, and it's not necessarily a speed factor when you look at exactly who's on the pitch, right? Especially with a guy like Rodrigo Betancourt, who can drop deep to the 18-yard line, and at that stage, if Alonga tries to cut in, there's going to be a defender there. Also, Mickey Van de Ven's wearing the captain's armband today, and so from that standpoint, it looks like the rush to the end line is going to be snuffed out as well too. The reason why Robbo is in this lineup is obviously for creation. It's also it's to supplement the attack. Robbo is absolutely very good at delivering balls in the box. Also, when you're talking about link up play down the left hand side, Robbo is as good as anyone else. Center back pairing today off the right side will be Van Hecke. And then, of course, I already mentioned it's going to be Mickey Van de Ven wearing the captain's armband today. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly how this one plays out. Set pieces could be a concern today for Spurs, and rightfully so. The midfield pairing will be Sandro Tonali and Rodrigo Betancourt, and I'm actually glad that we're not seeing Lucas Bergvall today. He had an absolute howler versus Brentford last weekend. Three key turnovers, two of which actually led to direct goals. And we saw Sandro Tonali not play his best because there was that concern where he's going to have to pick up the other side because of the play of Lucas Bergvall. That being said, Betancourt is in the lineup today, and he's a sure pair of hands. He's almost press resistant, if you will. Doesn't get nervy under pressure. Seems to have the right pass in his back pocket. Doesn't turn the ball over. And I personally believe you're going to see Sandro Tonali play an absolute huge role for Spurs today. With the attacking four off the left side, it will be Matisse Tell getting a start today. Off the right side, it is Pedro Porro, who's playing a little bit more of an advanced forward. I don't necessarily think this is going to be a bad thing, especially with the way that Spurs like to progress the ball. We could very well see a situation where Porro is going to get a free look at goal. Also, when it comes to situations where maybe he's essentially checked against the touchline, his ability to create and play balls in is going to be absolutely huge today. And I don't necessarily hate this. Underneath is going to be Matias Fernandez, and that is a smart decision. When you have a guy who has that type of flexibility in Matias Fernandez, and especially what we absolutely need from the number 10 position, having a guy who can create, but also distribute as well too. So we're not going to be looking so goddamn one-dimensional in this game. I like the idea of Matias Fernandez, and of course up top will be the newest signing, Omar Mamouche. And it's kind of interesting because I thought that Marmoush probably would get the opportunity to play on the left side today. I thought that probably would have made a little bit more sense. And of course, having Dominic Solanke start, that wasn't the case. And so from that standpoint, new center forward, it's going to be Omar Mamouche. So I'm very much looking forward to this. And let me tell you about a guy like Omar Mamouche. He's going to be able to score. So as we tune in here, as this thing has already kicked off, as we are 59 seconds into this match, and it looks like Newcastle did get forward here as that ball gets played out. And it looks like Archie Gray was the last one to touch it. So it looks like 1 minute in, Newcastle has a corner here as this ball gets played in. And immediately Pedro Porro is going to head this one out. As now Newcastle's going to have to reset here. As Matias Fernandez is going to check. Looks like he's going to check Sven Botman right there. So again, we are underway now here at the lane, 1 minute and 40 in. Actually, that was Dedic that actually got checked by Matias Fernandez right there. So there is going to be a whistle as Dedic actually gets essentially slammed in the back right there. So this will be a free kick as it looks like this ball gets played in. Headed away by Mickey Van de Ven as that's going to fall at the feet of Matias Fernandez. That's a good ball forward from Bravo. But coming out there was Hornacek right there. Not a bad pass. Not a bad idea. And there's going to be a whistle right there as Mickey Van de Ven was late to the tackle. And it looks like it's going to be a yellow. That's a quick yellow. Of course, I do want to remind folks that are tuning in here, please do me a favor and show the channel some love by hitting that like and subscribe button and also hit the notification bell. As Yohan Wissa right there got on the ball. Van de Ven was just a little late as he checked the left foot right there of Yohan Wissa. So that will be a yellow. And again, this will be a free kick as Lewis Hall is going to be standing over this one. That is his name, correct? Let me double check this. Yeah, Lewis Hall. As things have progressed, as it looks like Newcastle's doing a fantastic job early through the first 3 minutes as they've controlled the tempo. Spurs actually have shown a nice little grit here defensively. As set pieces were going to be a concern, just considering that this back line isn't exactly great in the air. This ball goes to the back post, and this is not going to be able to catch up with this. Let's see, what do you call it, mate? Football or soccer? I call it both. In the United States, I'll call it soccer, and obviously when I'm in England, I'll call it football. As that was good service right there by Hall, as it did catch Visa at the back post. It just floated a little too far forward. As now Spurs will try to play this one out of the back. Here's Robbo off the left. That's a good pass forward. Good touch. As Matisse Tell will come away with this as he's trying to. Here's Tonali. Good ball forward. Here's Robbo who's going to slow things down. Tries to pass it forward. Not exactly the greatest pass as there's a turnover. And Newcastle will hold it. Here's Alonga. Not a bad touch forward, but there's Van de Ven. As Betancourt will play this back to Big Tony Kinski. Katie Fox, good afternoon. How are you? I'm doing well. How about yourself? Thanks for tuning in. As Kinski now will play this off to Van Hecke. You're welcome. You're absolutely welcome, Katie Fox. Greetings from Portugal. Where in Portugal are you at? As play is resumed with Van de Ven, who's going to play this one back to Big Tony Kinski. From Algarve, huh? I don't know where Algarve is. But Portugal is definitely on my bucket list. I would love to see Portugal. As it looks like Newcastle is pressuring quite well here. as Tonali will play this back to Robbo and immediately tries to play it forward, and there's a turnover. As Matisse Tell does a good job of getting that one back. Tonali plays it forward, and just a little too far forward. And now Newcastle will come away with it. So Spurs, again, looks like this team is going to start slow, as Newcastle has come out and pressured Spurs early. And so far through 2 matches, we have seen the opponents absolutely take it to Spurs when it comes to forward pressure, and also when it comes to the press. And Spurs, at least this version, as opposed to last week, looks like they're actually able to manage it a little bit better. Last week, they were absolutely flat-footed for like a good 45 minutes. This week, it looks a little bit different, as that ball is going to get bounced out to the right. Porro tries to play it forward, just a little too far forward, and Newcastle will come away with it. Oh, and Betancourt just missed an opportunity. The Spurs will come away with it as Gray plays it back to Big Tony Kinski. Do the Tom Pearl thing. I don't know who Tom Pearl is. Yeah, I probably would love it. My goal is to tour Europe over the next 5 years ish. Every year, I'm just going to pick somewhere to go. Portugal is definitely up there, as Van de Ven will play this. As here's Van Hecke, as this ball is going to get delivered over the top, tries to find Porro, and they're going to say last touch by Porro. Now he's arguing. Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate you doing that. Yeah, like I like the history. I like the history of Portugal. Oh, that one's nearly taken away. Here's Robbo, and there's going to be a whistle, as they're going to say that was a foul against Newcastle. I'm kind of a history nerd, and obviously with the Portuguese and their ability to get into ships and discover new parts of the world. Obviously, there's an American link there. As this ball again is going to progress back to Kinski. There's the chip over, as it's Sandro Tonali. As there's a heavy touch right there from Matisse Tell. And now here comes Newcastle now. That's going to get played over, trying to find Visa. There's a shot that's going to go over the crossbar there, as Harvey Barnes couldn't do much with that as he was under pressure. But again, another turnover, as you can see how quick Newcastle's trying to progress this forward. And they're absolutely doing as they are trying to catch Spurs out as quick as they possibly can. As again, they're going to try to play this down the left-hand side. It does find Matisse Tell, and Tell again will lose it as he gets his foot stepped on. But again, yet another turnover here. So you're from the city where Columbus took off, huh? That's awesome. Who will win the league? Great question. Anybody but Arsenal. I will say Sunderland. I'm just playing. There's a turnover right there, as Spurs come away with it. But they are pressing Tottenham to no end. As Kinski again will check this to the left. Here's Sandro Tonali. He's got space. Tonali, as he did have Matisse Tell on a run there, elects not to do it. I'm a City fan, but we won't win it. I think Chelsea will be contending. I don't know. Like I'll see it I'll believe it when I see it type of dude when it comes to Chelsea. Here's Tell now. Good switch. Tell trying to play it in. Not a great pass. As Spurs, again, this attack ends as quick as it begins. Good progression, but Matisse Tell with just a bad touch on the left. Here's Tonali. Out to the left, here's Robbo. And there's going to be a whistle against Willock. Lagos. Yep. As play resumes. As Fernandez will lay it out for Archie Gray. And Gray will play it back to Van Heck. Here's Tonali. Good dribble right there by Tonali. Oh, and there's yet another turnover. And, here comes Newcastle. They're going to try to progress this quick. And it's Harvey Barnes. As in the attacking end, the Spurs have just been absolutely diabolical. But defensively, they've looked good. Here's Betancourt. And Van Hecke will try to play it forward. He does. Here's Archie Gray. And there's a whistle. I wonder if they were named after the castle that was newly built. As it looks like Nico Gonzalez will take a yellow here. That was a solid pass right there from Van Hecke to Gray. And Nico ultimately will get that whistle. I don't think this will necessarily be versus Gray. It's when Van Hecke came in. As Newcastle is dialed in here. As, of course, Archie Gray is going to play it back instead of trying to progress it forward. Oh, I'm sure I would love the food. As that's a heavy touch, as Yohan Bisa will come away with it. Do I like basketball or the NFL? Not really. I haven't watched a full NBA game since 2016, Game 7 of those finals, and before that it was 2008. As my team got ripped out of my city. Let's see. Big up to Brendan Aronson, yeah. I'm glad that he was given a new contract with Leeds, without a doubt. He's going to be a big player for Leeds. As Newcastle will begin this, as they swing this down to the right-hand side. As there's a ball that's pretty much nowhere as that goes out, so Spurs will have the goal kick. Yeah, I'm from Seattle. Don't worry about it. You don't need to know much about football. It's quite all right. Am I a Spurs fan? I'm doing a Spurs watch along. I don't know, man. I don't know. What do you think? Am I a Spurs fan? A little bit. As Van Hecke will play this off of Mickey Van de Ven. Here's Robbo. As that left channel gets closed down, and Spurs will have to switch sides here. As Van Hecke will play it forward. That's a good ball right there. Here's Tell trying to cut in. Tell will take a shot. Whoa, what a save right there by Hornacek. As that was a beautiful shot that was on target. There you go. There you go. Not a bad. That was absolutely good progression right there from Marmouche. as Tell just cuts in on his dominant foot and puts one on. And Voracek had to make a stretching save on that one. So there you go. How did I end up supporting Spurs? Because my brother is an Arsenal supporter, and I couldn't, like, I remember back in '99, we would go partying, and on a Friday night, and on Saturday, sometimes Saturday, Sunday morning, I'd stay the night because I wouldn't drive, and he would wake up at 6 a.m. to watch Arsenal, and I just remember absolutely hating everything about Arsenal. Highbury, Arsene Wenger, just didn't like him. As Kinski will try to play this off the left, as that one will get out, so it'll be his first throw-in. Do I get a follow? Sure, why not? I usually like to return the courtesy. Those that follow, I'll usually follow back. As Fernandez will play this up. Here's Porro. Porro plays it through. As this one will find Fernandez. He's going to make the switch to the left-hand side. Here's Matisse Tell. Tell plays it forward. Here's Robbo. Plays it in. Ooh. Off to Tonali. Tonali. Porro. Porro! What a block. What a block. What a block. Yeah, I've been to England. I was in London in February of this year, and I thoroughly enjoyed London. As Sandro Tonali picks out Pedro Porro, who made a nice move and put one on. That was a hell of a block right there by Lewis Hall, who gets in a good position, as that one for sure was an absolute goal taken away. How did you like New York? As this one gets headed away, and they're going to say foul. So I'm not a big fan of New York City. It's not my thing. But, yeah, London was awesome. And, that was my first North London derby last February, and it was everything that I thought it was and then more. And don't get me wrong, North London isn't necessarily great, but, Central London is pretty cool. I'm looking forward to going back. Yeah, I get it. But that being said, it's like, he was looking to the far post where there was plenty of empty net. That was absolutely a good block. Where would it be? Most people, when they come to the United States, will probably go to New York, and that's perfectly cool, as there's going to be a whistle. But for me, I would probably go to Miami. I think you would have a great time in Miami. And, believe it or not, especially if you go in the summertime, Seattle is a very beautiful place to go in Seattle. Either way, but Miami is where you want to go. There's a reason why a lot of Americans go down to Miami. Orlando's cool. I don't mind it. You want to visit Georgetown, like in DC? As this ball gets played all the way down, and that's going to get headed down. Tell flicks it forward. Here's Marmouche. Tonali. Back to Porro. As Porro went down looking for a whistle, didn't get it. Van Heck is going to have to get there. He does play it back. Let's see. Are you surprised Jedi didn't get a move? No, not really. Not really. A lot of teams are wondering about the knee, and yeah, I thought he played well in the World Cup. But that being said, yeah, he's gonna have to prove he can stay healthy. And now the whistle goes. What's the name? I'm not remembering. It's in Virginia Beach. Are Tottenham going trophyless once again? No. Jamestown. There you go. Thomastown. I've never been to Jamestown. Never been to Virginia Beach. As Newcastle will have the have the possession here at the 20-minute mark. Tottenham has very quickly gotten back into it, but here comes Harvey Barnes as he's racing in. Van Hecke tracks back. Oh, tried to lay it off, but right there was Betancourt. Here's Robbo now, and he's going to have to play this one out, and he does. This one gets over the head as Marmouche tries to get around the corner, doesn't. And he was also looking for a whistle. I think Spurs full potential can get top 4 to 6. Yeah, I don't know about Champions League. But that being said, Newcastle got not Newcastle, but there's a turnover. Here's Betancourt. Has Tell racing down the left side. Here comes Tell into the box. What's Tell going to do? And he's just going to lay it off and draw a corner. I don't think Champions League, well, again, Liverpool was able to get Champions League in 5th last year because of the coefficient. So it is possible to get one in the 5th position. But that being said, it's like a couple things are going to have to. There's a ball that's going to try to get in from Tell. There's a shot that's going to get ripped over the bar from Pedro Porro. The first thing Spurs are going to have to do is stay healthy. Like, none of this happens if we get into have another injury crisis. As Matisse Tell played a fantastic ball and Porro just let it rip. So it starts with health, and it's getting key guys back. Kulusevski's now back in first team training, which I'm happy about. He is going to play a huge role this year. And these new signings are going to have to show their quality. If things break right and we're able to consistently score goals, that's also going to be a key. Grabbing a European place isn't necessarily out of the realm of possibility. As there's a ball that's going to go long. As Dedic will catch up to it. Here's Alonga now. Alonga plays one in. That's going to be headed away. Good defense by Spurs as Newcastle will come down with it. As this one will go to Sven Botman. Hall will push the pace forward. Here's Harvey Barnes. Van Hecke is there. Good deflection right there by Van Hecke. That one gets out. But if you told me at the end of the year that they get a Europa League spot and get to Wembley at one of the cup finals, I would think that would be a fantastic first season. Building chemistry, continuity, and getting back to being a cup team, that would be absolutely fantastic. So this will be a corner here for Newcastle. As this one gets whipped short, Pedro Porro will head it off. Barnes plays it back in. As Archie Gray now will clear it. As Dedic is first to touch, and now this one gets played all the way back. You like to visit Salem and New Orleans. Yeah, I think you would, don't get me wrong, man. New Orleans is a fun town, man. Are you trying to do it during Mardi Gras? As Betancourt absolutely missed the opportunity here. Here comes Newcastle driving into the box. A nice recovery right there by Betancourt. As Willock was looking to plant his foot and take a rip, and Betancourt was absolutely huge because he missed the first opportunity there, and he hustles back as Willock is going to make a play into the box, and then stepping right over and just disrupting it was Rodrigo Betancourt. Oh, I said, are you trying to go to New Orleans in February when Mardi Gras happens? It's like a yearly party. It's like what they do in South America, Carnival. But Mardi Gras is a yearly party every February where millions of people go to New Orleans just to party. As this match now has gotten to the 25th minute, still scoreless here as Spurs have finally gotten into this match. Newcastle, the aggression is what we saw early is just not necessarily there. Here's Willock as he's being marked by Van de Ven. as this one will get played all the way to the other side. There's a chip over. Alonga, that was absolutely nasty as Alonga just played one down in the box as this one gets played back. Well, certainly New Orleans is full of history. Here's Barnes. As Lewis Hall now will take this one. As this one will get played all the way back. Here's Nico. And this one has to get played all the way back to Sven Botman. Sven. And now there's loads of space here for Joe Willock. As this gets played all the way to Dedic. That's good. That's good defense right there by Robbo as that one gets played out. Yeah, I'm not really a big party guy either. Let's see. A problem with Spurs is that they don't have a complete striker. Yeah, we haven't had one in damn near 3 years. But we did improve the position with Omar Mamouche. Yeah, I'm kind of a homebody too. I work too much to go party. As this ball gets delivered back post here, Betancourt goes up, and that one gets played out, so they're going to do it again. Yeah. I got a massive promotion, and so unfortunately, my life has been centered around work over the last year. No, it's not a bad thing. I'm not a big bar guy to begin with, anyway. Hashtag priorities. So again, Newcastle will have the corner here. As this one will get delivered short, and Pedro Porro just says, screw all this, I'm just going to play it out. Let's see, Philly for history. That's where the declaration, yeah, for sure. Like, American history for sure. Philly or DC would be very good spots. It's always worth seeing our nation's capital. There's a lot of cool stuff in DC. As Newcastle will try to chip this over. Here's Lewis Hall. As Marmouche is going to try to pressure here around the corner. There's a ball in. Van Heck will clear it. Van Hecke. Let's see. If you like movies, Philly's where Rocky was filmed. Hey, yo, Adrian. Hey, yo. Most people get bored about it. I'm like, wow. I guess it all depends on what you're looking for. There's a lot of good stuff in the United States. If you're a national parks person, then, west of the Rockies is where you want to be. Yellowstone. You have Monument National Park in Alaska, which is absolutely beautiful. What a heads-up play by Archie Gray. Porro now is going to try to play one forward, trying to get Marmouche sprinting forward just a little too far forward. As Dedic now will come away with it. Chelsea with Martinez is looking scary. I guess. Don't get me wrong, Martinez is a good goalkeeper. I'm not going to take anything away from him. But that being said, there's a curse with Chelsea. A lot of guys that go to Chelsea end up regressing some. But that being said, again, like I'll believe it when I see it. Chelsea was supposed to be, the team last year, and they absolutely came unglued in the Premier League. This has been an entertaining first 30 minutes here at the stadium. As within the first 5 to 8 minutes, Newcastle was doing a very good job, and then Spurs got into it. And it's really just been a nice little chess match the last 15, 20 minutes. Here's Tonali racing forward. He's got Alanga on him. As Robbo will play it off to VDV. And one food to try, what would you pick? Oh, see, here's the thing, Katie Fox. I'm a big fan of Mexican food. So, again, west of the Rockies, you're going to find this nation's best Mexican food. Down in Texas, Albuquerque, Arizona, great Mexican food. On the East Coast is where you'll find the best Italian food. That's a good ball forward. Here's Fernandez laying it off. Here's Archie Gray, tries to play one in. Oh, that's a good tip off. Here's Robbo. Robbo plays one. That's going to get cleared away and out, so Spurs will have the throw in. Yep. Philly cheesesteaks in Philly. Yeah. I can go for a cheesesteak right now, but don't you forget it. As Van Hecke will play it off to the right. Here's Porro. Again, here's Matias Fernandez trying to play one in. That's going to take a deflection out, so Spurs will have the corner. But yeah, Mexican food all day long. If I could eat Mexican food every day without consequence, I'd be a happy individual. I'll tell you what, man, there's a shop that's not too far around the corner from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in North London. It's like a Turkish place, and they have this, I guess you can call it a wrap. That's the best way to describe it. That has, seasoned lamb, and it has like all the vegetables in it. Oh boy, is that good. It's got like pickled onions. Imagine jalapenos. Is this ball going to go to the back post? Oh, and Marmouche pushes it wide left. That was my go-to spot. I forget the name of it. It's on the high road, not too, like about a block away. I forget the name of it, but it's insanely popular on match days. But they have I don't know what to call it. It's too big to be a Euro. It's like a wrap, but man, they have like all these pickled vegetables in there, and with the lamb, it's just it's beautiful. As Van de Ven tries to head it away, it's going to land to Harvey Barnes. Barnes around the corner to Willock, and that hits the side netting. Do I drink? Rarely. Rarely do I drink. When I was in London, I didn't drink at all. Especially when I'm going to, foreign cities. I don't like to put myself in a position where I get hampered. As this ball will go back post, and this one will get out. What about you, Katie Fox? Do you drink? As play will resume with Big Tony Kinski, as they're going to play this one out of the back here. As this first half has been very entertaining. As obviously you've seen that Spurs are vastly improved in the first 45 from last week, where this team absolutely had nothing going forward. So far, they haven't had any issues getting forward. Maybe in creation, but what I will say is they are doing a good job of trying to test out Hornacek here. As Van Hecke will play it off to the left. Here's Robbo. Down the left side. Here's Matisse Tell. 1v2 now. There you go, Robbo. Oh, you should have played one in, bud. As now Spurs will try the right side. Here's Pedro Porro. 1v1. There's a ball that's going to take a deflection out, and it looks like it's going to be a corner again for Spurs. Let's see. I'm not a drinker myself, but I enjoy very much as Porto wine. Shot as dessert. Yeah, I could go for a good glass of red. I'm not a big wine connoisseur, but a good Pinot Noir. along with a good cut of beef. Yeah. Spurs will play the short, and that was just diabolical. I think they're going to do it again. Not a glass, just a shot. Okay. Well, there you go. So Spurs will do this again, as they tried to play it short with Archie Gray. As this ball will go, and it'll take a deflection out, so Spurs will have to throw in. As Dedic did a pretty good job right there. Here's Matisse Tell. Oh, that's a good ball in. Robbo tries to center it. Oh, what a great save right there by Hornacek. And it looked like Robbo was trying to center it. Hornacek just got there. That was just an absolute sexy pass right there from Marmouche into the box. Yeah, I guess that was a shot. So this again will be a corner. As this one will be Matias Fernandez taking this corner. As this ball will go back post. Van Hecke! Oh, what a save. What a save by Hornacek. Oh. That was beautiful. As Van Hecke got up and got it. That was good service right there by Fernandez. Oh, damn. And it looks like Nico also got his head on it too. We have a tradition to have espresso shot after a meal. Let me tell you, okay. I don't mind. I don't mind the idea of an espresso shot after a meal. That probably helps you digest pretty well too. That would be my thought process behind it. Spurs again look goal dangerous, this time on set pieces. Looks like a little bit later today, Hull City will play Villa. Nice little move right there by Matisse Tell. Look at Marmouche just dribbling between three defenders. Oh, and Porro played one across the 6-yard box, and Hornacek comes out to get it. God damn it. Oh, Matisse Tell was open. That was a great run right there by Tell. And Porro tries to play it around Lewis Hall right there. Great play right there by Hornacek. It feels like a meal is not finished until you have your cafe. Fair enough. Yeah, here in America, that's not a thing. Maybe at breakfast, but certainly not lunch and dinner, although there are a lot of afternoon coffee drinkers. I don't mind it. I don't mind having an afternoon. The biggest thing, though, is for a lot of people here in the United States, it's, coffee late in the afternoon, early evening, and, dudes are going to have a hard time falling asleep. You know what I mean? As this will be a free kick for Newcastle as Marmouche gets tagged with the foul there. As finally Newcastle plays it. As Archie Gray comes in to try to progress it forward, and Sven Botman will play it off to Lewis Wade, but that ball gets played forward. And Spurs just look good right now. They have settled into this actually quite well. They look absolutely brilliant as they progress the ball forward. As this is something completely different as we've seen in the last couple seasons. That's a good ball forward. Here's Matias Fernandez. Comes away with it. Fernandez slips as he tries to deliver. Oy. Yep. Absolutely. But it's clean, right? The passing is just, it's clean, it's concise. It's not errant touches. as we are now approaching the 40th minute. Match is still tied. As that header, Spurs will come away with the ball here. The progression up the pitch is just beautiful. It is quick passing, but it's the timing of it is just right. No wasted effort, no wasted movement. As that's a heavy touch, that's still going to come down. Here comes Marmouche now. He has Tell to the outside. Here's Marmouche. We'll lay it off. Tonali plays it off to the right. Here's Archie Gray. He's going to try to chip this one, and this will get out again for a corner. As Archie Gray was playing to the left-hand side, it just was not that great. As he had Pedro Porro available, the play was to Porro. Here's Tell. Tell will lay it back off to Robbo. Robbo plays one in, and there's Hornacek. Where do I think Spurs will finish? Probably anywhere between fifth and seventh. I think that sounds about right. Depending on what the league coefficient is at the end of the season, fifth place could still theoretically get you Champions League. Like, things are going to have to break right for this team to break in. And not only are they going to have to break right, but you're hoping that one of the top four stumbles and Spurs are able to climb into that top four. But that being said, this team is going to have to score goals. Van Hecke, very good way of tracking back. Tonali's going to have space in the central part as he races forward. Here's Matisse Tell now off the left. Tell trying to go centrally. And finally, Tell relinquishes. Here's Pedro Porro now. Porro. Here's Tell now. Around the corner. Matisse cuts in. Plays it. Oh. Good move right there by Matisse Tell to free himself. That cut was superb. And he played one in. And it looked like it was Sandro Tonali. It was just too far ahead. Yeah, like, you have to understand the last two seasons, the quality that Spurs had on a week-to-week basis was just not good enough, hence the 17th place finishes. But when you look at the money spent, the quality that came through the door, once this team finds its footing, there's going to be a lot of points for this team to have. And of course, obviously we'll talk about the January window as we get closer to it and the adjustments that Spurs are going to make. But it's not going to be out of the realm of possibility that this team, again, if it can stay healthy, is going to actually put up numbers this season. And I don't think they're ready to contend with league for top honors, but to grab a European spot, yeah, I don't think that's unrealistic. Oh, what a move by Tonali as he frees himself in the central part of the central areas. Here's Pedro Porro in the box. Porro tries to shoot, and that gets deflected. Rodrigo Betancourt is there. You can probably assume that Champions League or competing for top honors is going to be what the expectation is with De Zerbi. But, I still think we need another piece. That's certainly not a true statement. Money certainly bought Manchester City. It's 4 straight titles. Same thing with Arsenal and Liverpool as that ball gets played forward. Here's Robbo. Robbo comes down with it, tries to head it. We'll hold on to possession. Here's Tell. Tell tries to dribble past, and he won't. And here comes Newcastle. It's Elanga, and Elanga will race. And there's going to be a whistle. Yep, staying 100% healthy. Agreed. You're not going to be able to achieve much if this team has another injury crisis. As we are now in the 44th and a half minute here, as we get close to the end of the first half, as both of these teams are deadlocked 0-0. That's a takeaway. Sandro Tonali. Archie Gray tries to play it forward. It'll take a deflection. Newcastle will come away with it. As Miley. We'll lay it off. Here's Dedic. Alanga. 1 minute of added time here at the end of the first half. That's a good ball. Oh, what a slide. What a slide right there by Van de Ven. That was a good through ball. Here comes Spurs now. It's Betancourt. Off the left side. Here's Tell. Tell trying to get around the corner. And that's going to get played out. De Zerbi not in the same universe as the rest of us. As that gets played, it looks like that gets played off of Matisse Tell. Heads up play right there. Spurs have been outplaying Newcastle here in the first half. And it's not even close. Newcastle maybe in the first 5 to 8 minutes, but Spurs grew into this game quick. And they literally have been putting Newcastle under pressure as they've been getting forward. They have tested Hornacek a few different times. Good saves, by the way, as we have reached the halftime whistle. Let's see. There's Dan Davenport. Steve, what's going on, buddy? Let's see. Could you see a Prem club going for G Arena before the end of the transfer window? No, because he just got transferred to Strasbourg, and it looks like he's going to be at Strasbourg for at least a year. I can't see it. And by the way, it's like he's going to have to play incredibly brilliantly at Strasbourg before a Premier League team comes for him. We have started off so sloppy against Newcastle. Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Spurs grew into that first half very well. In the last 25, 30 minutes, Spurs have actually been putting Newcastle under pressure. Defensively, they have been sound. Newcastle really hasn't been in a position where they've actually had to test Kinski. That's a credit to our defense. But really, it's like the name of this one is Spurs midfield. Like they have stepped into passing lanes. They have done a very, very good job. No goals. Why? Because nobody scored. Could you see Pulisic? No, I can't. I can't see Pulisic going in this window. All right, so let's take a look at the halftime stats. And as it sits, Spurs do lead the possession battle 56-44. Spurs also lead the XG battle 0.50 to 0.243. Total shots, Spurs 8, Newcastle 4. Shots on target, Spurs are at 50%. 4 shots on target, Newcastle 0. Big chances, Spurs have had 1 and they missed it. Newcastle is yet to have 1. Accurate passes, 245 to 180. Both teams have a yellow card, and it looks like Spurs lead the corner battle 6-5. Let's see. So far, Spurs have been outrunning Newcastle as Spurs have sprinted 1 mile to Newcastle's 0.8. And of course, Spurs also have 67 sprints to Newcastle's 51, although Newcastle has covered a little bit more distance, about a mile more than Spurs, or like a half a mile. Let's see. Total shots. We already got that. Shots on target. We got that. Block shots. Spurs have 1 block shot. Neither team has hit the woodwork. Shots inside the box, Spurs have 7. Newcastle has 2. Shots outside the box, 2-1 to Newcastle. Let's see. Total passes, Spurs 270, Newcastle 209. Passes in the own half, Spurs 131, Newcastle 111. Opposition half, Spurs 114, Newcastle 69. Accurate long balls, 12-10 to Newcastle. Accurate crosses, 3-2 to Newcastle. And touches in the opposition box. How about 20-7 for Spurs? So it lets you know exactly where Spurs are playing in the majority of this game. It's in Newcastle's box. So eventually, you would like to think that Spurs are going to break through. Spurs lead the duel battle 18-15. They lead ground duels 13-12. They lead aerial duels 5-3, and they also lead successful dribbles 3-1. The tackle battle, Spurs lead that one 5-4. Interceptions 4-2 Spurs. Blocks 2-0 Newcastle. Clearances 15-10 Spurs, and keeper saves 3-0 to Newcastle. So essentially what these stats are saying is that, and that's relatively how it's played out, that number one, Spurs have actually dominated this first half when it comes to possession, when it comes to chance creation. Spurs have done a very good job of doing that. As a matter of fact, Newcastle has kind of been on the back foot for a majority of it. After a quick start by Newcastle, Spurs got into it and haven't relented a little bit. The next step is obviously putting the ball in the back of the net, and it looks like Spurs were very close to doing it on a handful of occasions here in that first half. And so obviously the order of business is to continue doing that. It's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be any halftime changes. Is this going to be a situation where, maybe, Marmoush floats to the left and this is an opportunity to bring in Solanke? Maybe. As far as that striker position as far as the striker position is concerned, we really haven't seen a lot of it in the first half. Generally speaking, the creation has come from outside off the wings, which is fairly good. But that being said, it's, Omar Marmoush was brought in to be a little bit of a different maker in the box. And so from that standpoint, you would like to see Marmoush get involved, between the channels when it comes to their center back. So he's going to have to be a little bit more of a disruptor. So far in this first half, it looks like, what we've seen of Omar Marmoush is he's kind of been, a facilitator in the link-up play, hasn't really gotten himself into good positions when it comes to crosses in. So from that standpoint, you'd like to see a little bit more involvement from Omar Marmoush. I'm not saying he's had a bad game. It's just we haven't seen a lot of involvement when it comes to shots on net. So that's something that we're going to have to see a little bit here in the second half. What I will say is that this is exactly what I expected from Newcastle. I think a lot of fans maybe got caught up a little bit in what Newcastle did against Liverpool last week, and that was a phenomenal performance. Don't get me wrong, but that being said, you can see exactly what happens when they don't have the ability to counter quickly. That's the name of the game. They're a counter-attacking team, and they like to use their speed, i.e. Harvey Barnes, Anthony Elanga, Yohan Wissa, and they just like to progress quickly. And Spurs have done a very good job of camping essentially in passing lanes, taking the ball away, and then they themselves progressing the ball up quick as well too. And so from that standpoint, Newcastle has a little bit of advantage because they don't push their defender. They're not pushing their defenders forward, in a crazy manner. And so when Spurs try to counter, generally speaking, their defenders are there. But it's going to be interesting to see how the second half plays out. I think this has been just one of those great chess matches where I think potentially only one goal wins it. I can definitely see that one playing out. The question is which team is going to blink. So far, I think Spurs have done a very good job defensively. I think their midfield has been the crown jewel so far of this game. And you're starting to see why Rodrigo Betancourt was brought into this one, because Betancourt is absolutely special. Without a doubt, Betancourt's been special. And it's also allowed Tonali to get forward. And that's something I was saying this morning on the Irish Hotspur, right? When, that's the difference between a guy like Lucas Bergvall and Rodrigo Betancourt. Bergvall, unfortunately, gets nervy when he's under pressure. We saw it last week against Brentford, where he's not press resistant. Whenever there's pressure, he tries to spin and dribble off the half turn, and he always gets his back pocket picked. Last week, it was insane how many times he got his back pocket picked and what that meant to immediate goals. And so from that standpoint, you have a guy like Betancourt who plays a lot better when there's good players around him. And because of it, Sandro Tonali's been able to play higher up the pitch because he doesn't have to worry. And that's exactly why you brought in Sandro Tonali, to be a little bit more of a difference maker. And certainly, I think he's had a far better game this week than he did last week. So let's see. Dan Davenport says, if you can purchase an old vintage Tottenham jersey with collars on them, they were sponsored by Holstein. Okay, there you go. I wonder when Kulu will be back for us. Kulusevski is back in first team training, so it's not going to be long. And apparently he's training, and there is no pain, so that's good. And I'm happy about that. And I think that was the big thing, right, with Kulusevski is, is he going to be in a situation where he's going to play the rest of his career a little bit in pain? Turns out he's doing just fine pain-wise. There is no issues running. And, that's something, but probably why it's taken so long for Kulusevski to get back, because I'm sure he potentially could have played towards the end of last year, but there was always the situation where he ran and he would always feel, pain in that knee. And so, no more. So I'm actually looking forward to it, because Kulusevski is going to be an absolute game changer for this team, without a doubt. Let's see. Will Lancashire scored for Borough. Yeah, sure did. Absolutely did. I know there's a lot of people who think that that was a mistake. I don't necessarily think of it that way. And by the way, Borough lost, I think. Let's see. Yeah, Birmingham beat Wrexham yesterday as Phil Newman scored twice. Let's see. Swansea beat Derby County 3-0. Middlesbrough beat West Brom as Lancashire actually scored a double. That's crazy. That was today. Wolves beat Stoke City today. Charlton beat Preston. Bristol City beat Pompey. QPR beat Blackburn. Lincoln City beat Bolton. Southampton smashed Millwall today. Norwich beat Burnley. Cardiff and Sheffield drew 2-2, and West Ham and Watford also drew 1-1. So there's that. As we wait for the start of the second half here, I think we should go for Ivan Toney because Liverpool won't sell Gakpo. I don't know. We'll see. And I don't think Spurs have any interest in Ivan Toney, if I'm being 100% honest here. I'm not really that big fan of Ivan Toney, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like, if you're going to spend the money, go out and get Victor Osimhen. But I don't think that's going to happen either. I think really the targets are probably Cody Gakpo if you can get him, and if not, then Ndiaye from Everton. Why do I support Spurs? Because I've been supporting Spurs for 25 years now. That's why. I like, by the way, I do have, I do have American teams that I support as well too. Spurs have been my my Premier League team for ages. You're not getting Ndiaye. Oh, I wouldn't say that. Spurs can make an offer where Everton is going to have to think twice about it. How long have I been doing streams? For pushing 2 years now. Pretty recently with TikTok, though. I was a little late to TikTok. Let's see, up the toppies. Yeah, listen, I like Everton. I've kind of always fancied Everton and Palace as well too. Let's see. I support Inter Miami because Beckham. Yeah, I know. You live pretty close to Beckham, and you're a big Messi fan. That's cool. That's cool. I'm not a big Messi guy or a big Miami guy. All right. So before we begin the start of the second half, let me know exactly how you feel the second half plays out. Do you think it's going to be Newcastle to strike first? If who scores it? Also, vice versa with Spurs. Also, please do me a favor and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and also hit the notification bell. Can't forget to beg for subscribers. You got to do that. And if you guys are watching on TikTok Live, yeah, please do me a favor. The link is in the description. And you can head over to YouTube and support the channel. As we are beginning the start of the second half here, as Spurs now will play to the south stand. As this ball gets played forward, I think that, I think that is a terrible thing to ask Noel, and you're about to feel the hammer, bud. It's inappropriate. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. Just go ahead. There you go. There you go. As this ball gets progressed forward, and it looks like Newcastle will come away with it. As this ball is going to find Jan-Paul Van Hecke, but I believe there is going to be a whistle here. There's Roberto. There's Roboito as this ball gets out, so it'll be Archie Gray to throw in as Van Hecke will play this back to Big Tony Kinski. As Van de Ven will play it forward. Nice little move right there. As this ball will shoot up the right-hand side, it does find Pedro Porro. As Porro will try to play it forward, that's gonna last touch as Archie Gray was going for it. That's a quick forward into Porro. Here's Porro now. Betancourt. Oh, as Matisse Tell races to save it in, and that's going to go out. And it looks like there's a potential injury here as Omar Mamouche is down. As we see this again, Marmouche was coming across, and it looks like his foot gets tapped. It looks like he's going to be all right, though. It's nothing serious. Yeah, I do. I've got some ink. Yeah. Still working on this one. As Tia did indeed clip the foot of Marmouche. As play did resume. So this will be a throw-in. And there's Marmouche. Yeah, I'm just a big fan of tattoos. As this ball gets played forward. As Van de Ven will win that duel over Vissa. As Tonali wins his back. Here's Tonali now racing off the left-hand side. There's a ball in. Nobody was there. And Van de Ven again will take this away. As here's Pedro Porro. As he heads this one down, it's going to be Archie Gray off the right-hand side. As Porro will come away with it. Oh, nice play by Vissa. And Vissa will get the whistle. Terrible whistle. All Vissa did was just fall to the ground and cover the ball. Oh, you're not distracting me at all. Hull City winning the league. 6 points, no goal. Up the Tigers. As Harvey Barnes. Oh, that's a nice. That's a nice move right there. As Harvey Barnes won the header. And it looks like Lewis there puts a shot on. It just goes over the crossbar there. As Lewis Hall just takes a rip. Not a bad opportunity right there for Newcastle. But here comes Spurs trying to counter quick. Marmouche plays it forward. Here's Tell. Tell tries to shoot instead of passing. He absolutely had Matias Fernandez open. But that one gets blocked, and now it's going to get cleared. Here's Archie Gray. Oh, Archie. As Sandro Tonali finds Matias Fernandez. Here's Pedro Porro off the right. Plays it forward looking for Archie Gray. And they're going to say Archie Gray committed a little bit of infringement right there. So that kills Spurs forward momentum a little bit as we're in the 50th minute now. I have one on my left arm and on my chest. Okay. Nice. Yeah, I got 2 on my neck, 2 on my arms, 1 on my leg. I like tattoos. So play will resume here as Botman will start this thing. Here's Lewis Wade. And he's got Elonga. Can't stop it. Spurs actually got away with one right there. As Elonga would essentially took it away. And it looked like if his forward momentum would have stopped him a little bit, he would have been able to have a free net right there. Spurs were lucky that they did not go up 1-0. Nope, no piercings. Not a big piercings guy. As there's a forward ball right there. As Lewis Wade does a very good job stopping Porro. As Vissa does a very good job of evading. Oh, that's going to be a whistle. As Fernandez can't believe it. As he actually didn't even touch Vissa. And Vissa actually jumped over. As he jumped over Matias Fernandez and still gets the whistle. That's bad refereeing right there. As this one will get out. As Elonga is down, trying to grab his head, not going to get the whistle. Nice, Katie Fox. As Spurs will play it play it out of the back here. As that pass does get out as Marmouche hits the deck. So Newcastle will end up having possession here. No, I mean, it was clear. It clearly was a bullshit call. Fernandez didn't even touch homeboy. Vissa jumped over his leg and still gets the call. As that ball gets played in, there's a ball that's going to get played into the box, but it wasn't exactly the greatest cross. Sven Botman does a good job of keeping this one in. Here's Nico. Plays it over to Willock. Here's Elanga. Spurs actually are defensively have been actually pretty sound today. Just in the attacking end, they just haven't been able to find that final piece. Credit Newcastle. Defensively, they've been actually quite brilliant too. Here's Nico. Botman will take a rip, and that's going to take a deflection, and it'll get out. Marmouche has been not really all that. He was involved a little bit in link-up play in the first half, but really from a striker perspective, he really hasn't been much involved in today's game. As last touch by Spurs, so this will get out for a Newcastle corner. So it looks like Alonga will be taking this corner here as we are pushing the 55th minute here. As this ball will go short, and it'll immediately be headed out by Van de Ven. So this will be a throw-in now. Homeboy's a hair guy, man. Kinski is definitely a hair guy. Dude's hair is coiffed perfectly, as that was nearly a takeaway there. Oh, as Porro goes down. And Spurs will win possession back, as they're going to say it was Willock causing the infraction here. As there's Mohamed Kudus. There he is. Big Mo. Nice to see Big Mo back on the sidelines here. It's been a long time since we've seen Big Mo. As Kinski will play this one long. As Van Heck will do a good job of clearing the way for Kinski to come get that ball. As Spurs will start this progression with Rodrigo Betancourt. Here's Archie. As Van Hecke will play it off. Here's Sandro. Tunale. As VDV, that's a good pass into Matias Fernandez. And Fernandez trips. Still maintains possession. Here's Robbo. Here's Tell now. Matisse tries to chip it forward just a little too heavy right there, as Archie Gray made a run into the box. Just not good enough for Matisse Tell. As Spurs are looking for an answer here on the attacking end, as they have yet to unlock Newcastle's back four here. I mean, they look good. It's just that last little is missing here. Other than that, Spurs have played a pretty good game today. Defensively themselves, they just haven't been able. Newcastle themselves just haven't been able to do it. Here's Porro. Back to Fernandez. Here's Mateus trying to play it forward to Archie Gray. Gray gets to the end of it. No whistle, as that one will take a deflection. Here's Mateus Fernandez, and he loses possession. That's a good tackle right there by Van Hecke. Last touch by Newcastle. Haters are going to hate, man. You can continue to hate, bud. That's what you guys do best, man, is just hate. As Kinski will have this one. Spurs have 23 touches in the opposition box to Newcastle's 10. Getting forward is not the problem. It's finishing. That has been the Achilles heel for Spurs. Here's Marmouche. Turns the corner. Plays it through the legs. Here comes Marmouche now. We'll take a rip. And it just goes wide to the left. As Marmouche took one from way downtown. As we were approaching the 60th minute, that was just a good little touch right through the legs of Nico. Frees him up, and he just decides to take a rip. And it's just not on target. Here comes Newcastle. As they cross the halfway line here. As this one ball will progress out to the left, it's going to be Hall. Here's Willock now. Cuts to the central area. Lays it off to Miley. Willock will play one. That's going to get all the way out. That was just terrible from Willock. So listen, you guys already look better than Liverpool, so there's that. Is that Carlo Ancelotti? Looks like that's Ancelotti. As Van Hecke tries to center it. As that's a turnover right there. As we've reached the 60th minute now, I expect to see some changes here from Roberto De Zerbi, as there's a shot down the right-hand side. As that drops to Elanga. Oh, that's a goal. That's a goal by Anthony Elanga, as he just kind of puts up a Hail Mary, and it chips in off the far post as Newcastle will grab the lead. That was just an absolute prayer. That was just thrown at the goal as he was spinning out of control, and it just happens to bounce in. That was ugly. But it's still a goal. So Newcastle grabbed the 1-0 lead here. As we see it again, it was just that chip to the right-hand side. And it was just headed down to Elanga. As Sandro Tonali and Van de Ven were there, and it was just Elanga turning and putting one of the more uglier shots on net. It just happened to be accurate, and it goes in. As Newcastle grabs the lead, 1-0. Still 30 minutes left to play. Yeah, it's whatever, man. We are playing far and away better than we played last week, and that we knew that was going to happen. Spurs didn't have their better players in last week. Spurs have looked absolutely fantastic today. Just it's in that attacking third, it's been a problem. As play resumes. As Newcastle will send this long, there's Van Hecke. Good hustle play there. And again, as Newcastle tried to progress it forward quickly. Good defense right there. So Newcastle will have it in a. Yeah. Spurs have absolutely dominated large stretches of this game today. It just, that attacking third, just, it just is what it is. That's going to take time. We didn't have Savinho today. It just is what it is. As Van Hecke is going to be there on that through ball. As Archie Gray can't dribble out of trouble. Here's Willock as he passes it centrally. Here's Miley. As we will see what kind of switches here De Zerbi has in mind. I would probably assume we're going to see something quick. As there's going to be a whistle here, so Spurs will have the free kick. As Van Hecke will play it off to the left. Here's Robbo now. Lays it off. Here's Tell now. 1v1. Tell will try to cut in. Nothing is there. Here's Tonali. Here's Porro now. As Spurs will try to switch to the left-hand side. Here's Tonali. Over to Robbo. As Tonali will play it central. And there's going to be a whistle. As this one will go against Nico. So Spurs will have a free kick in a dangerous area. Nice awareness by Sandro Tonali to get that free kick. So it looks like it's going to be Matisse Tell. That's a good point. Nico would have gotten a yellow for that if he didn't already have one. Yeah, 100%. Danimal. I agree with everything. If Savinho, I would probably assume that if Savinho were available today, he would have been on the right, and Marmouche would have been on the left, and Solanke would have been up top with Fernandez underneath. And I would probably assume it would have played out a little bit different. But still, in the grand scheme of things, Spurs look way better. And Tell just fucking sends it 40 rows up. That was disgusting from Matisse Tell. Yeah, they do need to make changes. That was that was good connection right there for that goal for Newcastle. Yeah, it was just spinning without any vision, and he put up a prayer and it just goes in. He wasn't even really looking at goal. He just turns and fires and it goes in. Unfortunately, that's football. So here off comes Archie Gray, in comes Mikey Moore. So that means, that also means that Porro goes to right back. Tell comes off. Kudus comes on. So Mikey Moore looks like he's going to be on the left. Kudus will be on the right. Porro goes back to right back. And here's Mohamed Kudus. So Mikey Moore on the left. I like this. There's a chip. Here's Kudus. See what Mo can do here. That's a good ball forward. And Fernandez loses his footing. Love me some Archie Gray, huh? I don't mind Archie. Wasn't terrible today. And it looks like Newcastle's making changes as well, too. It looks like Nick Valtamata's coming in. That dude looks goofy, man, with the blonde hair. The blonde hair and the mustache. As Fernandez will come in for this one. Here's Mikey Moore. Plays it off to Betancourt. There's the quick out. Here comes Caduce now. Caduce tries to play it in. Nobody's there. Here's Betancourt. Out to Caduce. Cuts. Caduce plays one in. Deflected out, but Poro's there. Poro will take a rip. Oh, and it goes over the crossbar. Already it just looks a little bit better. Oh, and I think home dude got his hand on it. Yeah, he sure did. This is going to be a cross. This is going to be a corner here. That was a nice opportunity. So Caduce now will have this corner here. Can Spurs connect? This will go short. Headed away. There's a shot fired. Oh, it just goes wide right. Way wide right. Baltimore looking like every Southern State dad circa 1992. That's pretty funny. Yeah, it's just the blonde hair with the mustache. It just looks, dude looks goofy. So Newcastle will make a double switch too. As Willock will come off for Baltimore. And so it looks like Stewart's coming in for Nico. Spurs have 20 minutes plus stoppage time to find the equalizer, or better yet, take a lead. As Hornacek plays this one long. Here's Mikey Moore. Moore tries to play it forward. That's good defense right there by Newcastle. And it's Vissa. Lays it off. Here's Alonga. Good play forward. That's even better defense right there by Mickey Van de Ven. Taking away the corner. Taking away the edge right there. So it will be a Newcastle corner. Yep. And that's the thing. I mean, this was looking like this might be a one goal game either way. As this one will go to the back post. Headed down. And there's Vissa right there. And it's 2-0 Newcastle. And there's your ball game right there. As Spurs cannot clear the corner. Oh, I'm feeling fine about top four, bud. Although I don't think we were ever going to be a top four team. Never said we were. But, again, we're only two games into the season. I think you need to slow your roll too, bud. No, what I said was there are Spurs fans that think we can be a top four team. Me personally, I said, 5 through 7? If this team can grab a European place and make a run in the cup, that would be a great season. I've been consistent with that. No, your role is to hate, bro. Brev. Your role is to be a dick. That's a nice little play right there by Jan Visa right there. It was just beautiful. As Newcastle leads by 2 now. Yep. That was just a good play. I mean, And that's the thing. We were talking about this, before the game, especially when it comes to set piece defense. Spurs aren't exactly the tallest team in the league, and that has been a little bit of a bugaboo here, as yet another team scores off a set piece. So here comes Dominic Solanke now, as he will check in. As Tonali comes off, they're not going to fire. They're not firing Roberto De Zerbi. It's going to take time, man. 8 new signings into the starting 11. Yeah, it's going to take time. Yeah, we're definitely not. We're definitely not going to be relegated. We're not going to finish last. Like, everything has to go wrong for that to happen. Here's Big Mo. No, I'm not going to blame Roberto De Zerbi for this outcome. There's no need to. We just didn't execute. Again, if we had Savinho available, it probably would have been a little bit different. We probably wouldn't have had to play Porro on the right side, as there's going to be a whistle here. Yeah, that one was crazy though, right? So apparently Savinho had muscle fatigue, which is why he wasn't available today, right? And you probably assume that Mo Kudus probably can't even play a 60-minute, can't even play 60 yet, right? So, that was the thing, right? So it was the opportunity they needed somebody on the right. Porro plays a little higher. Porro didn't play terrible, wasn't great, wasn't terrible, but you expect there was going to be some change, but we just couldn't unlock Newcastle's back four. Simple as that. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing about a De Zerbi attack, is it is rooted in possession based philosophy, but you also have to be able to have chance creators and a semblance of attack. There's a ball that's going to go to the back post, and that's just going to get out. And that was absolutely terrible. But what I will say is that next week we're going to see, most likely we're going to see Savinho back, which is going to help. That is greatly going to help. So we get Forest next Saturday at 10. Yeah, that's greatly going to help. And I would probably assume we're going to see some sort of variation of I would probably assume it's probably going to be Savinho, Marmouche as your outside flank, and then of course Solanke up the middle, which is what I would have went with today, all things equal. But again, coming into this one, there was going to be a little bit of a question about how this attack was going to perform, and we got that answer. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, Marmouche was fine as we were trying to progress it through the central areas, except off the turn, and your job is to run into the box. He just wasn't there. As Marmouche gets essentially thrown down to the turf, no call. Betancourt recovers. to get that one away. Here's Kudus. Lays it off. It's Fernandez. Fernandez plays one to the back post. That's good defense right there by Newcastle. As Fernandez will track back. How many languages do I speak? Just one. English. Here's Kudus. As Spurs have been pounding that right side. Here's Porro. Oh, that's a good move by Kudus. Frees himself up, plays it. That's going to get out. It'll be a corner. 10 minutes remain. And Newcastle completely clears this out as Udogie has to go back. Do you learn English in school in America? Yeah, because we speak English. I guess it's true for, every nation that has a different language, right? I'm sure you learn, how to speak your language from your parents at an early age, and then there's a deflection right there. Bencourt tries to win it, as then I'll fall to Vissa. I would assume that African dialect. Oh, that's a good pass over to Botman, Barnes. As Kinski was lucky not to concede right there. There's a chip forward. Fall to Mata. That's going to take a deflection. Let's see. Yeah, I would think that Swedish or any African dialect would be incredibly tough. As Newcastle again will make a switch. It looks like the longest coming off. Same thing with Vissa. So Jacob Ramsey comes on for Vissa. Do I want to learn Portuguese? I don't know. I've been slowly learning Spanish. As we are 8 minutes from the 90. As look at this. As there's a good ball in. Good defense right there by Udogie. Yeah, certain English words for sure. That ball is just going to get over the head of Kudus. As we are slowly coming to the end of this 90, as Spurs will open the Premier League calendar with 2 losses. Credit Newcastle, man. Really, they only had 2 opportunities, and the 2 opportunities in the second half, they were able to converge. As Spurs had multiple cracks and just couldn't find the back of the net. As it doesn't feel like there's a sense of urgency here for Spurs to score. Here's Mikey Moore. Moore is not going to be able to beat his defender. So this will be a corner here for Spurs. As this ball will go into a good area, it just gets cleared. As Udoji will track back to get it. Here's Mikey Moore. More cuts. Shoots. More. And that just goes over. Yeah, there's different accents. There's different accents with the English language from different regions of the country. But yeah, still the same language. So this will be a long goal kick here for Newcastle. As Hornacek will play it long. There's Kudus. Kudus comes away with it, but that ball goes out of play. So Newcastle, again, will have the throw in as it looks like Spurs fans are headed toward the exit here in the 85th minute. Credit Newcastle. They were able to finish their opportunities today. And that's the difference in the game. Spurs weren't able to do it. Here's Porro. Plays one in. That's going to get down. As Udoji will track it. Here's Van Hecke. And that's just a wild pass right there by Pedro Porro. But Fernandez wins this ball back. There's a shot to the other side. Oh, and Solanke. Actually, it was Marmouche, and he puts it right at Hornacek for an easy save. As Marmouche put a good shot in, it just didn't really have much on it. As that one will get out, so Spurs will have to throw in here. As that was Spurs' first shot on net since the 36th minute. I don't know what that means. They're custard cream. As we are getting dangerously close to the 90th minute here. As Fernandez will play it off to the left. That's a good little pass. Here's Mikey Moore. Moore trying to get around the corner. Can't find it. Here's Udoji. Here's Kudus. That shot is going to take a deflection. And now it's going to get cleared away. As there's Big Tony Kinski, Spurs will restart this. As they just absolutely cannot unlock. As that one will get out, so this will be a Newcastle throw, and they absolutely cannot unlock Newcastle's back four. Yeah, like I agree with that. Like Spurs actually played well today. That was just the end product just wasn't there. They couldn't do it. For long stretches, we dominated this game in certain areas of the pitch. Did some very good things, but really when it came to putting shots on net, it just wasn't there. As Moore now will go to the back post. Good defense right there by Newcastle again. They did a very good job of defending both posts. There was just nothing there at the near or the far. Here's Caduce. Fernandez plays one. And that goes over the head of Solanke. Mikey Moore will track it. That'll go out. As we are coming close. 15 seconds now to the 90. And it's looking like this is going to be the second straight clean sheet against here. As it's going to be, 4 minutes of added time here? Like, we're going to have to find the right combination in attack. And here's Harvey Barnes. Nice play by Big Kinski. Big Tony Kinski. The confidence to come out to grab that ball. Here's VDV. As Caduce tries to get around the corner, doesn't. As Lewis Hall does a good job, clears it. But right there is Fernandez. 2.5 minutes remain. Poro will play one in. As Solanke tried to get up for that one, doesn't. Yeah, Lewis Hall has had a good game today. Here's Marmouche trying to get around. Wins the ball back. Here's Udoji. Centers it in. Oh, Solanke gets pushed while he tried to score right there. But again, not enough on that one. That was actually a brilliant centering ball, and Solanke was there. He just got nothing on it. And it was Lewis Hall to clear it. As Toure comes on and Harvey Barnes comes off. We'll be fine. You have 8 new players in the starting 11. It's going to take time. Not only that, I'm sure we'll get another person in before the end of the window as well too. I'm hoping it's striker. Although we just got Marmouche, but that being said, imagine if it's like somebody like Victor Osimhen or something like that. That would be insane. That would be insane. Or a Cody Gakpo, that would be insane as well too. As we're 30 seconds away here. Put me out of my misery. as I think that's going to do it right there. Yep. As Newcastle will take the second. Now, let's see. Now, how much windfall did we get from Troy Parrott move to Betis? I'm sure we had like a 5 or 10% sell on there. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Danny. Here's the thing. I don't get abused on my YouTube channel, but yeah, the English fans that pop onto the TikTok, yeah, they certainly do. They certainly do like to give me abuse, but I don't give a shit one way or another. But the tuner here, good job today. I don't give a shit. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right? Spurs actually played a lot better than they did a week ago. Let's just start with that. The problem with today's game is that we just absolutely could not get our attack going. There was just that extra pass there in the final third just wasn't there for large stretches of this game. And here's the crazy thing: we were getting forward, we were getting in the box, we just could not unlock that last little bit that's needed just to put the ball in the back of the net. And so from that stage, it's like, all right, that's fantastic. I mean, in possession, we did absolutely brilliantly. I thought defensively we were good. I thought our midfield was absolutely superb for good stretches. We were creating turnovers. We were pushing the ball. We were pushing the action. We just could not find a goal. From that standpoint, yeah, a lot has to improve. Personally, I thought it was a situation where, if we had Savinho available today, it would have been Savinho on the right, Marmoush on the left with Solanke through the middle, and Fernandez underneath. And I probably would have thought that would have been enough to actually have that type of game. But Matisse Tell, outside of that shot that he placed early in the first half, was largely non-existent. Pedro Porro tried. But again, you're talking about a right back pushed higher up on the right. It just didn't necessarily work. Listen, all credit to Newcastle. They were brilliant. I didn't think Newcastle really played all that well today, but in moments where they absolutely needed to dial something up, they were able to do it. So credit to Newcastle. And that was, that Alenga goal wasn't really all that great, but again, it goes in. And once you go down one, you have to push the action. And I thought even down one, Spurs really necessarily weren't playing with that great of a sense of urgency. And once it's two, it's like, okay, cool. It almost felt like, they didn't act with a sense of urgency until the last 10 minutes, when it was the game at that stage was already out of hand. But what I will say is there's a lot of good that came out of this one. It has nothing to do with moral victories. It just is what it is. I mean, if we were able to have the goals to match, the other two facets of the game, I would have think this would have been a perfect opportunity. But that being said, it is what it is. Like, again, all credit to Newcastle. Good win on the road. But Roberto De Zerbi is going to absolutely have to figure out the combination play when it comes to the attacking three. Because one of the things that we cannot do is get ourselves in a situation where it's like match week 6, match week 7, match week 8, and we're still having these problems, right? So I would say it's back to the drawing board, but what I will say, it's, De Zerbi has to do himself a favor, and like, we have options now. There's no excuse. It sucks we didn't have Savinho, but it is what it is. Next week against Forest, we will. And so from that standpoint, you're going to have to make that decision, especially off the left-hand side, because you would probably assume that Savinho is on the right. So how are you going to play the left? Me personally, I think right now, depending on what happens in the next couple of days leading into the transfer window, the deadline, if we're able to get Gakpo, that is, your attacking three is going to be Gakpo, Savinho, Marmoush. And That's actually a very decent and electric attacking three going forward. But that being said, you still have Solanke, and me personally, I thought he was going to be starting today. So it is what it is. All right, let's go ahead and get into the full-time stats here. And Spurs again win possession 58-42. XG, Spurs won the overall XG battle 1.04 to 0.75. Total shots, Spurs 17, Newcastle 11. Shots on target 6-2. Touches inside the opposition box 32-18. It's like, they did everything well except for scoring goals. Accurate passes 435, 318. Yellow cards, Newcastle had 2, Spurs had 1. Spurs win the corner battle 9-7. Let's see. Total shots, we already that block shots 3-2 Spurs. Shots inside the box 10-7 Spurs. Shots outside the box 7-4 Spurs. Duels, Newcastle did win the duel battle 41-37. They also won grand duels 30-27 and aerial duels 11-10. Successful dribbles were even at 5. Fouls committed, Spurs 15, Newcastle 9. Tackle, Spurs won the tackle battle 13-11. They won interceptions 5-3. Blocks 5-1 to Newcastle. Clearances 31-18, and keeper saves 4-0. Top rated players today. For Newcastle, it was Lewis Hall. He had a very good game today. Dedic had a good game. Hornacek had a good game. Alonga, Wisa had a good game. For Spurs, it was Jan-Paul Van Hecke and Mateus Fernandez and Omar Amouche, but it is what it is. Let's see. Van de Ven, with some slickness, you played well. Newcastle have the unknown quality and quantity advantage and a new manager bounce. Yeah, that's there you go. Let's see. Greetings, Spurs fans. It's your fault for giving over 100 million. So Savino, you almost pay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Out of the top 6, Tottenham are my favorite. Natural growth, not a part of the red cartel and the Granite fans. A working man's team. All the best for the season. Thank you very much. And same to you guys as well too. Like, what's funny is, the interesting thing about Newcastle is that, they were going to, because of the revenue that Newcastle draws, because of the stadium, St. James Places where you guys play, there's only going to be a certain level of revenue that you're going to be able to achieve, right? So your revenue and wage percentage, Newcastle spent a very good chunk of change of putting that team together for Eddie Howe. And the only thing they were able to get out of it is, they definitely made the Champions League. They also won their first trophy in forever. And all that was fantastic. And I was happy for Newcastle when they won the League's Cup. But the reality was that team was put together to challenge not only for the top 4, but potentially challenge for top honors. And they weren't able to do it. And eventually they were going to run into PSR problems. And so when you looked at their revenue to wage percentage, it was a little high. And so, of course, they were going to have to move off some players. And they moved off some really good players as well, too. Anthony Gordon, Isak, Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali. And these are absolute key players for this Newcastle team. But that being said, most everyone thought that, Newcastle was going to take a step back and, this team isn't necessarily designed to be a counterattacking team. And it's like, I don't know about that. I still think Newcastle is still a very talented team and are still going to be in a position to be competitive this season. Now, is this going to be a European play season? Potentially, if things break right, they stay healthy and they continue to attack every single game the way that they have. Yeah, I probably would assume that could be doable. I think, I still think they're a top 10 team. I don't see why not. But again, it's going to be the same thing with Spurs that's going to be with Newcastle as well too, where it's like things are going to have to break right, and eventually, the top end talent are going to have to step in and to deliver for the reason why, for the reasons that they were paid, more so Spurs than Newcastle. But I still think Newcastle is incredibly talented. Yeah, let's see. Yep. Offloaded the highest earners to lower the wage ban. Must until we get a new stadium. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see. Like, let me know, by the way, what the plan is for Newcastle, right? Is this going to be an expansion of St. James's Park, or is it just going to be or is it going to be just an entire new stadium, right? The one thing that I like about Newcastle is their ownership, right? I mean, they're essentially backed by the Saudi, public investment fund, right? So you're talking about something, you're talking about, an investment fund that's like in the trillions, right? So the ability to build a stadium is not going to be that big of an issue for them, right? But is this going to be something where they keep St. James's Park, but they expand it, remodel it? So obviously it's bigger, or is this something where they're looking to build something completely new? And, like a 60,000 seater, you know what I mean? That will allow Newcastle to be able to have the revenue that will allow them to be able to spend on a higher level. It's a good question. I'm not necessarily in tune with, the stadium situation for Newcastle, but I would assume that it's going to be a new stadium. But that being said, I liked what Liverpool did by essentially rebuilding Anfield with a new main stand. They also, remodeled the Cop End as well too. So I like what Liverpool did. They were thinking about building a new stadium, but when it came to their supporters, they realized the importance of Anfield, and so they just renovated it. And look at Newcastle, not Newcastle, but Liverpool. Let's see. Expansion's not feasible. New stadium has traction, but not without barriers. It'll be built in Lee's Park. We've just unveiled 190 million training complex next to Newcastle. Okay, Newcastle Airport. Okay. By the way, the Newcastle Derby, by the way, Newcastle has to take it this year. They lost twice to Sunderland last year, which was surprising a little bit. Let's see. I know you American Spurs fan is beaming right now. At least Savino scored a brace as his debut. He didn't score a brace. He nearly scored one. It was what's his ass, Ben Davis, that scored the tap-in on the second one. But it's Charlton Athletic, right? So as great as that was, and he should be back next week. It would have been nice. It would have been absolutely nice to see Savino play today. That was the one thing that we were missing. The one guy that's going to be able to shake defenders and potentially play decent balls into the box, right? That's the thing that Savino has. And of course, it's the Brazilian flair where attacking players where you're so good on the ball, you're going to be able to shake defenders and do something absolutely miraculous. But again, Savino's knock is the fact that, he was not that great with City. He really wasn't. It's like you look at the end product of Savino at City, like it was non-existent. And that was the big thing coming from City to Spurs. It's like, dude, I don't want to pay that much money for a dude that doesn't score goals. All of that 1v1 stuff is important, but also, you're coming to Spurs expecting to be an 8 to 12 goal scorer. It's like he's done that once in Spain. And it's, his whole City career has been, I hate to say this, but he's been a wash at City. And, that's the thing. It's like Pep Guardiola even passed him up when there was injuries, electing to go with different guys or going into the transfer window just to find something that's going to be better suited. And he was, passed over. And it's like, you're expecting that guy to come to Tottenham and be something special. It's like, I don't know. I don't necessarily see it. Marmoush, on the other hand, I wanted Marmoush when he was at Frankfurt. Like, I saw an absolute stud when he was playing at Frankfurt. And I was kind of scratching my head about why he even went to City. He was never going to, be a starter with that team. But that being said, it's almost the same thing with Ryan Cherokee as well, too. You're going to be, a very highly used sub, and you're going to get your opportunities to play. But and I thought Marmoush was okay, but that's the thing. It's at Spurs, depending on the how this thing is going to roll out. It's going to be interesting to see where Marmoush plays, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Premier League today. As let's see, shall we? All right. So yesterday, Manchester City did beat Crystal Palace 4-1. Jesus Christ. Both Ryan Cherokee and Erling Haaland had, back braces, as Crystal Palace absolutely got demolished. As a matter of fact, Palace's one goal came off an own goal by Donnarumma. And although Xavier Gozo did make his Crystal Palace debut, so that's good. And, hopefully, that's the thing. The question about Palace this season is going to be like, what is this team going to be now that Oliver Glasner is not with this club? And, the identity of Palace over the last 3-4 seasons has been solely attributed to the style of play that Oliver Glasner was able to do. They won a couple trophies, and that was absolutely brilliant, considering it's Palace. Palace doesn't win trophies. To win an FA Cup and to win a European Cup, it was absolutely fantastic for Palace and their supporters, albeit with them, essentially pushing out their main supporters group, which is absolute dog shit if you ask me. But it is what it is. Liverpool and Forest played to a 2-2 draw today. Liverpool getting their goals from Alexander Isak and Victor Munoz. And for Forest, it was Ndoye and Morgan Gibbs-White. So pretty solid result for Forest. And, of course, next week we play Forest there at the City Ground. So that's going to be an interesting one. Hull City today, up the Tigers. They beat Coventry 1-0 as they get their goal in the 82nd minute from Liam Miller. So congratulations to Hull City. 2 wins to start the season. Coventry is going to be an interesting one. I didn't think Coventry had that great of a summer when it comes to strengthening for the Premier League. I think what Sunderland did last year was the blueprint for teams having to consolidate and try to stay up. I thought Leeds did actually a fantastic job of staying up last year as well too. But really, that's the blueprint where you understand that this league is athletic and physical, and so they retooled their entire squad to meet the demands of what the Premier League we're going to need. And they had a brilliant season getting Europe as well too. So Hull City. Now, granted, it's 2 wins, and you're happy for Hull City, but when they get into the bulk of their schedule, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how they handle it. But again, you're talking about a Hull City team that barely squeaked into the playoffs last year in the championship, and usually 6th place team when it comes to the number 6 team when it comes to the playoffs. Very rarely, if ever, advance and win the playoff, and they certainly did it. And they've come up and gotten 2 wins. So I guess you can say credit to Hull City, but we'll see. Bournemouth and Everton today played to a 1-1 draw. Alex Scott scored for Bournemouth in the 41st minute, and James Tarkowski in the 90+1. So the Toffees, if you will. And that's actually a good result for Everton. Let's see. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., Chelsea will host Brighton. Leeds will host Brentford. Sunderland will host Fulham. United will host Ipswich, and Villa will host Arsenal on Monday. It's going to be interesting, too, because in order for Spurs to do what I think a lot of Spurs fans are expecting is that obviously staying healthy is a must. But that being said, you're going to ask a couple teams that are going to have to fall off a little bit this season, right? So you're talking Man City, you're talking Arsenal, you're talking United, Villa, Liverpool, Chelsea. That right there is 6 teams, and 6 teams that you expect to be at the top of the table. Now, granted, we'll see what United ends up becoming this season. Like, I'm not talking shit about United. I thought what Michael Carrick did last year was absolutely a stroke of brilliance. He just made a few changes and all of a sudden, United went on a roll. That's fantastic, but it's a new season. And for Spurs to like meet their expectations, a lot of it has to do with us. Being good in possession, chance creation, and that's great. But that being said, we're going to have to consistently score goals. And I've said this on multiple occasions. If that is going to be the case, and Spurs are going to be able to do it, you're going to have to at least get 30 goals from your striker position. And so you're talking 15 each between Solanke and Marmoush. Solanke, 2 out of the last 3 years, he's been a 15 goal across all competition scorer. Omar Marmoush at the Premier League level, don't know because he hasn't really done it. But that being said, you look at his CV, he certainly has the ability to score goals. And so at that stage, it's all about whether or not this team is going to be able to set their strikers up for success, right? On the wings, you're also looking for 20 goals. And so you're looking at 10 each from each side. And who knows exactly how that's going to play out because Savinho hasn't done it yet at the Premier League level. And depending on what's going to happen on the left side, we don't know. But that being said, if it's me, until we get a Kulusevski back, we got Kudus back. Kulusevski's coming back. Kulusevski and Kudus are coming back. You have Savinho. And so naturally, you probably assume that maybe Savinho goes to the left side. And then you have Kudus and Kulusevski battling it on the right side. And you have a mixture of Matisse Tell and Mikey Moore, potentially, as depth pieces off the left side. But that being said, it's like, who is going to be that dude that's going to produce off that left side? Is it going to be Matisse Tell? He's certainly gotten better. But again, when it comes to the end product, there's just not a lot of guys in this team that actually has that end product, right? Me personally, I have no idea what to expect from Mo Kudus. I do know what to expect from Kulusevski because he can score. Kulusevski, by the way, is my favorite player. But when I look at what he's done so far from Spurs, not only can he score, but he can also assist. He's sneaky quick. He just does everything right. But we have no idea exactly what kind of Kulusevski we're going to get back. So from that standpoint, and also we also have some questions at the number 10 role as well too. And that's the thing. It's like you're asking for 50 goals from your attacking three, and you're looking for potentially 20 from the rest of your squad, whether that's from the midfield or set pieces, right? In order to realistically get into the top four, realistically, you're going to have to score a minimum of 70. And I do not think that this team has 70 goals in them. If this team can get to the 50 goal mark, like the 50 to 60, and from that stage, now you're talking about a European place. It's most likely going to be Europa, which is, we won Europa about a year and a half ago, the Conference League. And here's the thing. It's like, this is the problem with Spurs fans. And again, I hate taking a piss out of Spurs fans. I really do. But again, it's like a lot of Spurs fans will take their cues from the English media. And for years, it has always been nothing, like for the last couple of years, it's been nothing but negative talk. And so, of course, that was reflected in our fan base. And now this last transfer window, I mean, we spent, damn near a $500 million on 8 players incoming. And all of a sudden now the narrative is, okay, cool. So these expectations are going to be X. And it's like, pump your brakes real quick. Because the reality is we haven't had this type of quality come in one summer. And there's going to have to be a little bit of a grace period for Roberto De Zerbi to place his team in positions that are going to succeed. But also, they also have to develop continuity and chemistry. That's not like, and by the way, when you look at the preseason, most of our best players weren't available. A lot of these dudes played in the World Cup, regardless of when they ended their World Cup. Spurs actually gave them, a nice little break. And so for the most part in the preseason, who you saw got a lot of minutes were either players that are no longer with us or there were young players. And it was only until the last couple weeks of the preseason did we get some of these guys back, but they still weren't playing. And we saw it in the first game of the season against Brentford. We didn't have our best players available. Some of them we did, most of them we didn't. This was the first time where we actually had Pedro Porro available, Mickey Van de Ven available. Mateus Fernandez was available for the first time in the Premier League. And we had Omar Mamouche, who was a late signing. We didn't get Savinho this week, and so that's the thing. It's like, first and foremost, we have to actually have our first choice match day squad available, and then these guys have to play. And there are going to be a little bit of growing pains, and from that, De Zerbi's going to have to make his tweaks and make his adjustments to figure out exactly how this team is going to be able to put their best foot forward. And I thought today we did a lot of very good things. I thought defensively, for good stretches, we were absolutely brilliant. I thought the midfield play was infinitely better than at any point we've seen over the last 3 years. The addition of Tonali, the addition of Mateus Fernandez, and of course working with Betancourt, we were creating so many goddamn turnovers in the midfield just by stepping into passing lanes and not allowing the ball to progress. That was the one thing for at least through the first 60 minutes of this game that is exactly what, that's exactly how Newcastle was trying to attack. It was trying to progress the ball quick, get into the counterattack and move that ball forward. And Spurs did a very good job of disrupting it to the point where there was a stretch there for 30 minutes that Newcastle just weren't getting forward. And Spurs were able to counter quite nicely. It was just unlocking that back four that we just could not figure that out. And then, Newcastle gets forward, they score an ugly goal, and then they're able to capitalize off a set piece. And there's your ball game, right? So this thing is going to take a few weeks for this thing to get adjusted. And I'm perfectly okay with that. And I think Spurs fans, number one, the first thing what we have to do is just understand exactly where we're at right now. Because the finished product that we're going to see by the end of week 6, week 8, week 10 is going to be vastly different than what we're seeing right now. And my guess is that by the time that we hit the September 12th against Everton, these next 2 games against Forest and Everton, I would probably assume that not only are we going to get our first win, but chances are pretty good next week against Forest. Maybe we'll even get a draw next week, and all of a sudden we're in a much different position. But that being said, once it gets rolling, the quality is there. That's the thing. It's like the quality on this team is there. These guys just have to be able to develop chemistry with each other. And that's the thing for a team that, wasn't really together in the preseason, the team that was available to go to Australia. And by the way, they actually hated going to Australia. That came out. That was a disaster for the club. And the team that we saw last week against Brentford, that was just a direct reflection of what was going on versus the preseason. So that's the thing. It's like, once this thing gets rolling, it's going to roll. Spurs are going to score goals. We're going to win games. And I would probably assume that by the January transfer window, we'll be within shouting distance. And depending on how we attack the January transfer window, I would probably assume that it's going to play out different in that second half. And when all the dust settles, I will say that, will Spurs be in a position to grab a European place, whether that's Europa or conference? Well, the talent certainly suggests that we will. So I think it's just important for Spurs fans to take a deep breath. Let's not play the blame game, because I don't think that's going to help matters. And allow De Zerbi and his staff to be able to figure out the best combination for the attack, and just let this team roll, because when it rolls, it will. Without a doubt, it will. The tuner says it's just a matter of time, guys. Yeah, keep the faith and just make a lot of noise in the stands. Player confidence is partly fan responsibility. Get behind them. Cheer every tackle. 12th man job. Do it. Yeah, and you know what? There's going and that's probably going to be the same with Newcastle this year. There's going to be stretches where it doesn't necessarily look that great, doesn't necessarily play great. But that being said, you look at the you look at the fan support for Newcastle at St. James's, and it's one of the best in the world. And that's been the Newcastle MO for decades, man, decades. And it's also interesting considering that, we've had two straight second 17th place finishes, and the idea that we're going to be in the Champions League next year is a bit much. But again, you look at the incomings, and you look at the quality that this team finally has. Again, once it clicks, and it will click sooner rather than later. The idea that we're incapable of grabbing a Europa League spot, just it just doesn't make much. If you're listening to opposing fans, understand that they're opposing fans for a reason. They don't like us, and they will never like us. So I'm not trying to appease you guys. I know quality when I see it, and this is by and large one of the best Spurs teams quality wise that I've seen in 4 or 5 years. It's been a while since we've had this much quality. And by the way, it's like when you look at the Mauricio Pochettino years, and you look at how good that team was in 2015-16 and 18-19 when we get to a Champions League final. It's been a slow demise since the Champions League final, and we have essentially dismantled a team that nearly got over the hill, and it's been painful. It's been painful to watch club legends go. It's been painful to watch some of our role players exit stage left. And let's be perfectly honest, when we had Jose Mourinho, we didn't back him. When we had Conte, we didn't back him. When we had Nuno, he didn't even last that long to where we could back him. We didn't back Ange. We didn't back Thomas Frank. This team was a few decent players surrounded by a bunch of dudes that probably belong in the championship, if I'm being honest. And now all of a sudden you look at this group and you see players that other big teams wanted. Arsenal and Chelsea and Liverpool wanted Tonali. Manchester United, Liverpool, and Arsenal were rumored to have also wanted Mateus Fernandes, and we ended up with both of them. Bringing in Van Hecke was nice. Bringing in Senesi and Robbo on a free, good pieces of business, man. Bringing in Savinho, bringing in Marmoush, solid additions. And by the way, it's like this is for the here right now, but also I imagine that next year, in the next summer transfer window, we're going to be targeting a legit striker that has the 20-goal capabilities and probably even another winger. Just imagine that kind of depth, right? I don't think this is a one-off summer. I actually think that ENIC are gonna, for at least a few years, they are going to spend the money and put together a team that can challenge for top honors. So it's nice, actually. It's nice finally that Spurs are actually showing ambition. And that's the thing. It's like this was never going to be for this season. This is just the first year of a new project. But the thing about this is we're backing Roberto De Zerbi. He's a top manager. He's a top manager. Dan Davenport, sloppy performance by us, especially in the attacking third. For sure, that was sloppy. Outside of that, I thought defensively we were fine. I thought defensively we actually looked good for long stretches, and I thought our midfield was the best aspect of today's game for us. Let's see, the tuner. I thought Newcastle would struggle without Howe in charge. Yeah, it turns out that being a counterattacking team with the sum of all pieces ended up being a pretty good stroke. It looks like they're playing quite well for them. We're getting, let's see, we were struggling with him in charge, Live Eddie, but he ran out of steam, 100%. And that's the thing. It's like, credit to the, the Saudi ownership of Newcastle, because they actually backed Eddie Howe and they gave him a lot of good pieces. And, for the first couple years of that project, when you bring in Isak and you bring in Gordon, you bring in Tonali, and you bring in Joe Linton and some of these other players, that was a squad, man. Like there was a time there where, St. James's Park was, a place where not even some of the best teams in the league would go there and lose. But they weren't able to get over the top. And that's the thing. It's like, as that thing continues and you take a step back in the league, and then you take another step back in the league, and you can't necessarily equate the success that you had, a couple years early. And then all of a sudden it's like, you start wondering whether or not the messaging is actually getting through to these players, right? At one point it did. But towards the end, you start wondering whether or not, Eddie Howe, his messaging, whether, you wonder if the messaging is new, or if he's still continuing saying the same things to the players, where, nothing ever seemed to, change. Things got stagnated a little bit. Let's see. He made that team a family. The family left, and he didn't have it to start over with that new side. Yeah, okay, you're probably right. Amanda Stavely and her husband is now at West Ham. Well, they certainly bought 25% of West Ham. At least that was the deal. But one of their majority owners was trying to block it. I can see Howe replacing Nuno. By the way, Eddie Howe is not going to upend Nuno at West Ham. He is there. He is absolutely loved by the people in charge at West Ham. And he's also loved by his players. Like, it would take West Ham not going straight back up for them to decide to replace Nuno. In the meantime, I would probably assume that Howe might take the season off and get back into coaching next season. I still think he's going to get another Premier League job somewhere. Let's see. Love Amanda. She was excellent. Big game for the Hammers. Yeah, we'll see if it actually goes through. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Not exactly the result that I wanted. Not exactly a result that you guys wanted as well too. But again, when you look at the sum of this game, there was a lot of things that we did well. We did not. Where we did not excel was in that final third. But that being said, to see the some of the parts that we were told were going to put this team over the top, I thought, I think from that standpoint, I think there was a lot of good to take out of this one. But again, results are results. We're 0-2, and we're going to have to figure it out quick, because Forest, with Oliver Glasner, is going to be competitive. And then, of course, the week after, we have Everton, David Moyes and Everton. But that being said, it's going to be interesting to see this week and exactly how this thing is going to progress. I fully expect Savino to be back for next week, and we'll take it from there. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Please do me a favor and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Show this channel some love. And again, if you guys are tuning in on TikTok Live, do me a favor, please. The link is in the description. You can head over and show the channel some love. All right, guys. I will see you soon. By the way, in about an hour, we have another live stream as well, too. This time, Major League Soccer, as the Seattle Sounders, my Seattle Sounders will take on the Chicago Fire. So I will see you guys in an hour. Take care. Have a great day.